the recording in a second. And then Mike Barnett. Okay, I got it. So Mike, I think you're the first one.
Yeah, shall we go ahead and go?
Yeah.
All right, well, I just shared my screen. I'm just going to show a couple of slides. This is a update on the business process modeling that we're doing. And as you know, our mission is for this part of the project is to build a repository of business process models for all the the great work that the utility partners are doing, and represent as a model in business process model and notation. And I want to just give you a sense of what we have done and then the process we're going through. But right up front, I want to introduce John Coltas, who is going to be administering our this process that I'll describe to you. John's a business consultant, and he's got a long experience working with customers, and he in particular has expertise in building reference models for industry. So he knows the basic concepts. He knows what we're trying to achieve in terms of the model repository. And as I'll describe this process, John's going to be getting in touch with everyone, sort of methodically working through the long list of participants in the UAIM project, and towards the goal of developing these business process models and getting them, to a certain quality, and then getting them into the repository before the end of this project in May. So the slide you're looking at is just to give you an idea of what we've done in the past. We've done a lot of collaborative efforts with different teams in the earlier parts of the UAIM project, from the asset management, risk management, SIP delivery, the BCE and the SIP prioritization, working with Minnesota, Portland Water, Team 2100, the DC Water folks, even VCS in Denmark. And the list you see at the bottom were the individual use cases where a utility just wanted to elaborate and build models and do some business process improvement on specific use cases of interest to them. The important point here is that each one of these projects is a use case. The target is a use case. We want to get these case studies as an end result of doing this work, so that in our repository, other utilities can learn from the experiences of all the great process improvement work that you as utility partners have done and will do. So very quickly, let me just run through this process. Again, our contact information, you're going to be hearing a lot from John. He'll be sending out a lot of emails and communicating with people to make sure that we've got your contributions and making sure that it gets into the repository. And we'll follow these 5 steps, which is in many cases, we've already done an introductory or an initial meeting. But for others that are just getting on board, we want to make sure you know the goals, why we're doing this process modeling, why we're doing it in business process model and notation. Figure out, identify with you what specific use case you want to contribute, and then understand the context and answer any questions that you might have. Then we'll set up, or John will help set up these model review meetings, and might be 1 or 2 or a few short meetings to help us understand what you've are contributing, and making sure that it meets the UAIM modeling guidelines and getting them into the repository. So the real deadlines that we've set for ourselves are in the last 3 items here. The first one, April timeframe, submitting the models that we want to include in the repository. And that may, Cello and Scott and I and others may take a look at these models, make sure they're what we need for the repository, and we might bounce back some edits that you can review. And John will manage all of this stick handling of these reports or these models. Then in the May timeframe, we want to get these use case reports done. These are not long documents. They're meant to be summaries. So they're 2 to 5 pages. Typically 5 is a long one. But we don't want to limit you. We just want to make sure we summarize the good work that you've done in a use case, and there'll be some editing and review as part of that. And then in June, with the very end of this project, we're going to publish, and you'll hear more about this in the future, but in the next couple of months. But we will publish a new version of the water sector value model, which is an organization for all those business process models that we collect. So that's a summary. Any quick questions before we move on, or comments from you, Scott or Cello?
No, that's good, Mike.
Yeah, we have a hand up. Let me just see. Zanetta has a hand up.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Cello. Mr. Barnett, our organization is completing our as-is for our CIP delivery model. And so I was getting ready to ask about who do we need to contact. So you want me to contact Mr. Coltis to get, okay.
John, yeah, in fact, I'll put you at the top of the list. John will get in touch with you, and we'll figure out what we need to do next.
Okay, great. I appreciate it. Thank you. Perfect timing. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Mike, this is Mike Sweeney. Quick question, and it's a real simple one, but I just want to make sure I got it straight. The use cases are a different animal than the models, the as-is and to-bes, correct?
That's correct. I mean, the models are just a tool. The use case is really the business process improvement study that you implemented.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a really tight agenda. Mark, thank you very much, Mike Barnett. Mark, you ready? You're on mute.
Yes, good, I'm ready.
Okay.
So let me share my screen real quick, and I'll talk about the work that we've been doing on the organizational culture side of things in the great brainstorming workshop we had. Here we go. Okay, so you see, hopefully you'll see an Excel spreadsheet.
Yep.
Very good. So we had some great work done by Kesra, who has been working on a team. Kesra and I have been working on to try and take this 180 some great ideas that we garnered in the workshop and try to organize them and put them into some level 5 maturity examples. We're now also going to extend that and create some level 3 and level 1 maturity examples, as well as start thinking about some metrics. And Parajat is going to help us on that. And we really appreciate her help as well. And so let me just give you a couple of examples of what we've distilled. And again, there's many ways this could be cut and many things that this also suggests. But if you start when we talk about results here at the very top in row 2, we have defined performance indicators as the category. Some of the ideas that were suggested were defining KPIs for performance, defining high performing at the organizational, the unit and individual level, define targets was another idea, and then high performing with respect to counterparts or set targets clarification. So I created some level 5 maturity examples that these either are directly related to, sometimes they're even exactly the same statement, or that they're suggested by there. So it isn't necessarily all inclusive because sometimes there's multiple ideas going on. We tried to create some level 5 maturity examples where you could see what we were trying to get to in that. So for instance, in this one where the performance indicator category, we came up with organization has KPIs. So key performance indicators, they are measured, goals are set, and results are openly discussed at leadership meetings. Now, this is just one approach to KPIs, right? But what I tried to create with this level 5 maturity example is that they're clearly embedded and they're clearly part of the way your organization operates, and that they're important and that they're discussed. And this is also, I was trying to also get into some of the things about, where conflict is part of how do you manage conflict as an organization, and how do you manage differences of opinion. And that was what I was trying to get to with that openly discussed. And so again, this is just a statement that's suggested by this area. And as we work on these, we're certainly going to be open to and welcome additional ideas and thoughts on this. Let's drop down to, let's see, level row 5. If you look at results under shared vision, and again, vision is a big area, and these are some of the things that we collected that we thought related to shared vision. We looked at the statements that we got from our brainstorming session. We're transparent, collaborative, goal setting, and evaluation at all levels. It's part of the strategic plan. It's transparent to ensure fairness, and cascading goals so that employee and unit work goals are clearly tied to the strategic and operational goals. So the statement I came up with, and this is just one, that's a lot of information there. That's a lot of great ideas. But one statement I came up with from that was, staff are engaged in developing and understanding the organization's vision for the future and are inspired to help achieve it. So that's a bigger, broader statement, but some of those other things could be then the other statements from the input, from the ideas, could also then be sub-statements for that level 5 maturity example. Let me drop down to some others here, and you can see I haven't completed all my work yet, so I've got some more work to do here. So let's go under row 9, accountability, opportunities. The input was offering opportunities to staff to meet accountability expectations and goals, cadence of follow-up, start with safety, making it motivating, removing barriers, staying focused and flexible. So the statement I came up with, the opportunities are open and available to all and are a planned part of employee and organizational development. And again, the idea there is I'm trying to say it's an organization that's clearly incorporated these things. And it is part of the way they do work, part of the way they do business. Let me just give you perhaps 1 or 2 more examples in some different categories. So under control and under the layer of control, the subcategory is decision making. We have lots of statements on decision making here. So there's certainly more level 5 maturity example statements that can come out of this, but when you look at, we have defined distributed decision-making systems. There's standardized process for decision-making. The distributed decision-making is enabled by high level of information sharing and access. Boy, that's a good one right there. That's a great statement, because you need the information sharing. That's what enables great decisions, and decisions at the right level and by the right folks. So again, there's lots of examples here. Continuous improvement. Alternatively, once the decision is made, everyone supports it. So a statement that I came up with out of this is, the organization has a clearly defined decision-making model, and it uses it appropriately to make the best decisions from the available knowledge throughout the organization in a timely way that produces needed buy-in. So a big statement, a lot of things. I tried to cover a lot of stuff that was going on in the great input that we got from the workshop. Until I think I'm gonna pause there and see if there's any quick questions or comments, and then I'd be happy to answer anything folks have. And we are looking forward. We're going to share these next week at our organizational culture team meeting. One other thing I should mention: we understand this has definitely got overlap with workforce and what the workforce folks are doing. So we're trying to define those and see which one kind of fits where, but we're also not worried too much about the fact that there is overlap, and that's not a bad thing. There is obviously going to be overlap between what the workforce experiences and your organizational culture, because those two things are obviously clearly intertwined. So is there any questions that I can answer, or comments, please?
I just want to say that I pasted in the chat line a link to the materials that are related to the December workshops, where you can see if you're interested, things in more detail. So there you can copy and save the link, or after the meeting, go and examine. And just note that work is still very much in progress. Yes. So what you see today will be probably different from what you see on Monday or Tuesday next week.
Certainly for me on Monday.
Yeah. We're looking forward to a lot of good team feedback from a lot of people on the call here. maybe just we're right on time, Mark. So maybe we should move on to Lisa, and you could share your screen, Lisa. Heading into workforce. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep. Yes.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to do a really quick recap of where we are today, and then I'm going to hand off to two of our team members who will share more details about the important work that they've been doing. So far, we've had our regular biweekly calls. I have to say they've been really well attended, and participation has been awesome from my perspective. And I think the work product we're working on or heading towards is going to demonstrate that. We are focused on development, of course, of our workforce maturity model. We've done several things to help us work better in our virtual approach. And one of those is we started using Mural, a new interactive technology platform, so we could have more of a whiteboard experience, even though we won't be in the same room together. That allowed us to gather workforce characteristics that the team feels represent the high versus the low statements of workforce capabilities. Now we're drawing on our system models, and we all have a few different system models in mind from our research. But I think as we put those all together and think this through, we'll have the best of all of those systems in play. And as Mark pointed out, we're seeing that there's parts that make up this whole of our workplace. And so those are showing up as interconnections and overlaps between the work culture and the change management. And as Mark pointed out, I think, that's a good thing. We have to be conscious of where things connect because they do make up the whole of our organization. In our upcoming calls, we'll continue to refine the work that's being done on the maturity model. And I think right now we'd be best served if we'd let Alice and Makeda give us a little bit more insight into the great work they've been doing to consolidate what's a really large volume of input that we got in our workshop. I'll hand it off.
So Alice or Makeda, you want to share the screen?
So I was unable to get the spreadsheet up this morning. I don't know if it moved. So Cello, do you have it handy?
Oh,
let me.
You have it, Makeda? Okay, good.
Yep.
Makeda's got it?
Yep, I got it. I know IT is
It's always a challenge.
yes.
So I'll just real quick say what the difference was between the columns in the spreadsheet from what Mark Poling just showed you. First of all, I have to say that we basically stole this from Mark and Keisha. So thank you so much for going first, both today and earlier. So the only real difference is you can see we have the layer and the category just like they did, which are the main buckets of what have been looked at. But then we had a slightly different way of looking at the summarized input from the workshops, and that we split it out into more of an individual perspective and an organizational perspective, so that we could start to really think about these different concepts and what it means to each of the people within the organization and what the organization itself would have to do. Other than that, it's pretty much the same. Started with creating some larger statements, which, like Mark said, are not necessarily comprehensive, but try to capture the essence and the spirit of part of what that input was all about. And so, Makeda, are you comfortable maybe pulling up a couple of examples and talking about the categories in the rows?
Yes, so we can even start with the first one. We had a lot of input about training, education, and development. And I think to Alice and Mark's point, there's things that the individuals in the workforce need to do in order to get to a level 5 maturity, but there's also things that the organization needs to do. So the input we got, there wasn't a lot of overlap, so we were able to separate out. But some of the input we got in terms of what do individuals in the organization need to do in order to get to level 5 maturity in terms of training, education, and development? Are, do the employees actually have the skills they need to perform their jobs? Are there opportunities that are embraced by employees? You can offer opportunities, but if employees in the workforce are not embracing and taking advantage of opportunities, that's something we need to address at the workforce level. Also, are employees collaborating to lead training, that sort of thing. So these are some of the behavioral examples that we want to get want to use to get us to our level 5 maturity example. In the statement we have here for that would be employees enthusiastically participate in a robust and well-funded system to support learning and growth in the organization. This includes learning from each other, job shadowing, formal training, and career pathing. So you can see we were able to summarize a lot of this input into this one fairly broad statement, and our next steps are going to then be to break out these statements into measures so that we can track back and measure to see, are we at level 5? And I think it's just a really great, again, we did steal this, but it's a really great framework to take these really large concepts like mastery, autonomy, purpose, and fairness. And what does that look like in our organizations? What does it look like specifically in utility organizations? How can we make that real and measurable and aligned to our organizational objectives? Yeah, and yep. So you see, same with trust. We know that all the research shows that trust is necessary for high functioning organizations, but what does that really mean? And I know Alice and I have had that conversation, especially sometimes when you're speaking to engineers. They're like, trust, what does that mean? I need something more concrete around that. So we have some really concrete examples here, like, can people see mistakes as a learning opportunity? Is accountability, are people afraid of accountability, or do they view it as a chance to progress and get feedback? So these are some things that we use to create, again, that level 5 statement, so that we can, again, build some measures about what does it look like when an organization has a lot of trust. And we know when employees trust each other in the organization, they have more autonomy and put in more of that discretionary effort and go above and beyond. So we're just trying to, a lot of great data to sort through. That's been sort of really fun to look at. Yep. And I think that's what I got. Alice, did you have anything else on this, Alice?
No, that was a great summary. Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to be going next week into a lot more, back into our teams and get some further reactions to it and feedback and that kind of thing. In the interest of time, thank you for that. That gave a good snapshot of where we're at. Maybe we go back to Cello to identify in your next piece of the agenda, Cello.
Yes, I also want to say in the chat line, I sent you a link to a notes, the feedback from the report outs of these workshops. So let me know if you see the PowerPoint presentation.
Yep, it's there.
Yeah, okay. So this is the feedback that we got immediately from the workshop on workforce. It went from strongly disagree to strongly agree, and we were, we were pretty happy. We have a little bit of work to do on this, understand how we will use the maturity model. Hopefully what I'm going to say today will help this a little bit. We also had really good feedback from the organizational culture workshop. And this is sort of the word map of things that people were suggesting, and they had a pretty good time. So the deliverables that we're going to try to that we're working on is the maturity models for workforce and organization. Then after that, also a method for change management that takes these maturity models into account, and then select recommended methods for assessment of workforce organization and change management, produce guidance for assessment. And then ultimately, we would love to have case studies where people are actually implementing and report, reports or on the plans or the implementations. So if we look at the big picture, I'm rushing a little bit because we have only 3 minutes left, but this is sort of a map of what we're doing in terms of what we have in terms of milestones, activities, workshops, and deliverables. And the green stuff shows that we've kind of completed or largely completed these items. And I have to say, so the outcome that we had hoped for is the maturity models by the end of last year, but with the I have to say that Makeda and Alice and Mark and Kesra worked through the Christmas and New Year's weeks on these things. So we're working very hard to catch up, and I very much appreciate what they've done. So our next steps are really going to be about when we finalize the maturity models, the assessment methods, producing the guidance document and implementations, and then by May 31st, we're going to publish the final report. That's the 4 periods that we have, and the milestones and deadlines and so forth. So I just want to slow down a little bit and see if there are any questions or things or need for clarification, because I don't want questions to remain unanswered. Scott, if you can help me see if any hands are up, because
So far, there are none, but
Okay.
people can enter into the chat and ask questions, or you can raise your hand.
Okay.
See, it's so clear what you've laid out there, Cello, that they just don't have any questions, right?
Yeah, I wish. So we're gonna continue on our path, and the recordings of the workshop, especially the report outs, are have been posted, so you can examine those. They are available in that video spreadsheet that's called a video store, that includes links to all the videos that are that have been published to YouTube. So anyway, we just wanted to pack as much as possible into 30 minutes, and I want to also see if there are any questions remaining.
And Cello, you may want to just add, for the sake of the group, because I know there's some people on from the improvement teams as well, just to say that those are progressing, you know, fantastic work.
Yes, thank you, Scott. We have had a lot of work on the improvement initiatives, the managing enterprise risk, developing asset management plans, CIP delivery, and business case evaluation. A lot of activities, and we plan to dedicate our next biweekly conference call to a briefing like this. Today was people topics, and next, in a couple of weeks, it'll be the improvement initiatives. And we're getting tremendous participation, and people are having a lot of fun. Okay.
So any questions or feedback? We're progressing and meetings are continuing, so we're making good progress.
There's a comment that these reflect excellent truth, but might also appear to be onerous tasks and processing in order to achieve excellence. I think the definition of excellence is that you probably don't get there very quickly and very easily. And some of the level 5 things may be aspirational, but I think to have such aspirational goals and to have a definition of where we'd like to be, if we know where we want to be, then we'll struggle a little bit, but eventually I think we can get closer and closer. And also, we we will not try to boil the ocean and try to do everything at once. Our plan is to start gradually, start with selecting processes and specific teams so that the approach would be scalable. But I agree, it is a big mountain to climb.
Yep. Well, okay. Cello, we're at our time, and a few people are dropping off. If anyone has a burning contribution to make,